Okay, so sorry about that. I had a kitchen emergency following my little brain fart here. So, okay, coming back to this, here's what I see. I have to get this -2 should have been a +3. So I apologize for any confusion there. Let's try again. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 3i from the box times this bottom -2 plus 3i. I'm still going to get the -6i minus 9i squared, which turns in, plus 9i squared, which turns into a -9. So I'm going to have -9 minus 6i. This column is going to become a -1 minus 6i. So I have to go through again and to 3i times the bottom to go up here. Now it's got to start clearing up because I need to have a 0 at the end. So again, if I do 3i times what's below here, I'm going to get a -3i plus 18, minus 18, getting one step ahead of myself, minus 18i squared, which is going to turn into a positive 18 minus 3i, which is good news because these cancel, and only thing left in that column is a -3i. And then finally, this 3i times this one is a 3i times -3i, so -9i squared. So it becomes a +9, and thankfully this last column turns into the 0 that I need. So that was a lot, and I only used this one. So now I have to go a second round with -3i in the box. But the beauty of that is it should totally clean up and all the i's should disappear. So this 1 is going to drop here. Here I'm going to get -3i, which boom, those are gone. So the only thing that drops is this -2. Multiplying these, I get a positive 6i. So then these cancel and -1 drops. These become a positive 3i, and I get the 0 that I need. All right, so I have gone from an x to the 4th to an x to the 3rd. So I currently have 1x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0. And for this one, it doesn't factor, so I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So this is putting together a ton of things you learned in algebra, which is the whole idea of pre-calc and calculus, is all those little bits come together to be a bigger picture item. So I need to take the opposite of b. Since this is my b, the opposite would be 2 plus or minus the square root of that b value squared, careful to use my parentheses, minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So putting that into my calculator, I'm actually going to get rid of this other row of work so I have a little more space. I like to do the part under the radical first, so it's going to be -2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative. So I'm going to end up with 4 plus 4. Oh, I'm just going to get an 8 under there. So if I do 2 plus the square root of 8 and divide it by 2, I get 2.41. If I do 2 minus the square root of 8 and divide by 2, I get -0.41. So these would be my last two remaining zeros. So when it asks me to find all of the zeros, it would be, my answer would be x equals plus or minus 3i, which were the two I got from up here, and then 2.41 and -0.41. So that's a lot. And if this process of doing a synthetic division with an I value here, that's going to be extra credit. You will have to do synthetic division and you may get answers that are imaginary. But that process of synthetically dividing by I is going to be an extra credit problem this year because, you know, pandemic. So find all the zeros. Okay, so this is going to be a -2 is given. So then I do the same thing I did before. I start with that -2, keeping in mind this is a 3, so I need to find 3 zeros ultimately. So I'm putting -2 in the box because it was given to me as a 0, not a factor. So I know that's what goes into the box. I have 1x cubed, 2x squared, 4x, 8. So dropping the 1, I get a -2 here, 0. That's going to give me a 0, 4. That's going to give me a -8, 0. That's the one I need because this last column should always go to 0 if you do this process right after them telling you that's a 0. So at this point, I went from having an x cubed, I currently have an x squared. So this means x squared plus 4 equals 0. And I don't need the quadratic formula here because I can just move the 4 over. Then I can square root each side. And I would end up with x equals plus or minus the square root of -4. Thinking about that, like we talked about up above, I would end up with x equals plus or minus 2 because that's the perfect square, or excuse me, the square root of 4, and then I because that's the square root of -1. So when it says to find all the zeros, my zeros would be -2, which was the one they gave me, and then plus 2i and minus 2i. So those are the 3 zeros that I would get for that problem. All right, so then this one says to leave my answer in factored form. So this again goes back to this chart, and I just keep making this thing because that way, whether they give me factors and ask for zeros or vice versa, I'm in business. So here I had 0 listed twice, so that has a multiplicity of 2. Then I had a 1, a 2, a -3, and a 4i. Your job now is to go from zeros to factors to the polynomial. So what factor would go with a +1 as a 0? X minus 1. How about with a +2? X minus 2. What factor goes with a 0 of -3? X plus 3. How about 4i? X minus 4i. They're just opposites. But here's the catch. You have to be smart enough to know that when you have one of these, they always come in conjugate pairs. So if you are given this one, you need to know that the partner, the little buddy, is going to be there as well. So that's going to make an x plus 4i factor. Up here, to make a factor that would be 0 when x is 0, you would use x. But because it has a multiplicity of 2, it would need a power of 2. So again, that's a lot of things we've learned. So this one says to write the polynomial in factored form. So I'm just writing out my factors. X squared, x minus 1, x minus 2, x plus 3, x minus 4i, and x plus 4i. And you don't have to multiply it out or anything. It says to leave it in factored form for obvious reasons because there's no way you want to have to write, FOIL those all out. So I know that's a lot, and I apologize for my burnt banana bread break in the middle that got me all distractified. So everything on here is fair game. Like I said, number 8 would be something that would lean towards extra credit because it's a pretty tricky process to learn in just 2 days on your own, or 2 days in class and 3 days on your own. Take the process seriously. When you get into class on Tuesday, I'm going to be giving you a test online that I want you to be able to show your work and complete your answers. And we'll be on camera and we'll be together, and then we'll cut loose after you are finished. I look forward to seeing you. Also check out the answer key folder. You're going to see some problems in there that you were assigned and are now in there with the full worked out answers. So hopefully that'll help. And I will also upload this into Keys so you can see the final answers. Have a great weekend, you guys, and I will see you on Tuesday.